to our circular design webinar. Let's get started by poll. So we would like to engage with all of you with this very nice and simple poll. So please choose what you prefer most in circular design. Let's do just a quick round of voting. So you can start voting now. We'll have around 10 more seconds. Okay, and 5 last seconds. 3, 2, 1, and let's end the poll and see what was the most popular thing about circular design. It helps creating sustainable growth within planetary boundaries, but also designing products that last and cycle endlessly, and designing out waste and pollution. Thank you for that. Thank you for contributing to the poll. We have a really interesting program for this afternoon. So we will start with circular economy fundamentals, which is really crucial to understand before moving on to circular design framework. We will then have a bit of deep dive into circular design. We have lots of interesting case studies for you. And then last but definitely not least, we will talk about EcoDesign Sprint and how that would be a really good way to kickstart your circular journey. We will have Q's and A's towards the end, and we all already have had quite a few really good questions from you, so thank you for those. And of course, it's possible to use chat and ask more questions during the webinar, and we will try our best to address all of them during the session. A quick round of introductions. So you know who your hosts are. My name is Anne Raudaskoski, and I'm a head of design and co-founder of Ethica, circular economy consultancy. And then we have Ida.
Yes, hi everyone. I work as a circular designer at Ethica from last fall. And the past 4 years I lived in Berlin and educated myself in circular design and worked in circular design related projects with Lidl, Manufactum, and some European run circular design research projects.
And hello from my side also. My name is Aino Vepsäläinen and I work as a project manager in Design Forum Finland. I'm responsible for the events, trainings and some projects as well, like circular design projects. We have had quite many already. For those who don't know Design Forum Finland, Design Forum Finland is a non-profit organization which is maintained by the Finnish Society of Crafts and Design. It's quite old organization. We were established already 1875. Design Forum Finland promotes the use of design in companies, especially as a tool for leadership and on a strategic level. And actually, during the couple of past years, circular economy has become a very important topic for us. And at the moment, we are involved in one national circular design projects and in 2 international ones. But I will tell more about one of these later on. Thanks.
Thank you, Ida and Aino. A couple of words about Ethica, a circular economy consultancy. I think we can all agree that there's a systemic change going on in the world where companies and society as a whole is moving towards a carbon neutral circular economy. And Ethica's mission really is to help our clients to succeed in this market turning point. We also have a couple of references here, so you can learn what type of projects we do. So EcoDesign Sprint, that has already been mentioned and will be talked more towards the end of the webinar, is one of our flagship projects, and we've been facilitating the sprint to date in several countries with a number of different companies, really ranging from packaging to furniture, clothing and camping equipment. So EcoDesign Sprint suits any company regardless of the sector. Another case is a company called Ecotelligent. We had a pleasure to work with them, and Ecotelligent designs and manufactures wood and low carbon 5G antenna towers. So we used our circular design approach with them, and as a result they got a system level map of environmental impact and also design and circular business opportunities identified across the entire life cycle. And then there's case Lidl.
Yes, I can tell a few words about the Lidl case. I worked in 2018-19, or already maybe a bit 2017 a bit, as a circular designer and researcher for Cradle to Cradle related projects. If you're not familiar yet with Cradle to Cradle, I really recommend to check it out. We can also send some links. But Lidl wanted to proceed with circular or cradle to cradle sort of product development and achieve like a first certification in circular product development. And they started to develop different pajama collections, house shoes, sort of simple shoes, bedwear and so on. And all these products, they were designed for the biosphere. So if you had pajamas with like elastic bands or yarns or any other accessories, they were assessed for the biosphere. So they used bio-based polymers in their products and so on. This was like a research development project for Lidl. And also Lidl innovated a new pigment paste, which was the first biodegradable pigment paste for garments.
And our services for businesses cover both the strategic level and implementation level. So quite often we start from strategy audit with our clients and then move on to create a strategy roadmap and then into R&D, in other words, circular design and cradle to cradle framework, and then also help with communications. But now let's have a look at the circular economy drivers and key principles. A really crucial question to ask ourselves is that what kind of future we actually want to build. As an executive, what is the kind of product service development or product service portfolio that you want to provide through your company? And quite often when we talk about future, and especially from a climate and environmental perspective, we get into very dystopic pictures. But the interesting thing to point out here is that we can only create a type of future that we can imagine. So it's really important that you at your company create a positive vision of the future. So what is the sustainable, powerful, positive future that you and your company want to create? This is always a really important starting point. And here I have a very quick quiz for you. What's in the picture? You can write it in the chat box if you know what this is about. Virtue Day. Fantastic. Thank you, Emanuela. Yes, exactly. So this is the World Overshoot Day, and I've actually encircled Finland here, which is, to be honest, not doing so great because our Overshoot Day is already April the 5th. And every year, from 5 to 7 days, we are going to an earlier date. So this is a kind of development that we want to stop and start going in another direction. And also, if everybody lives like a Finn, we would need 4 planets, and according to our knowledge, we only have 1. So when you look at this picture, I think it is pretty clear that circular economy really belongs to all of us. And it's also really important to remember that circular economy forms the foundation for carbon neutral business. So if we put it quite simply, CO2 emissions come from the use of energy and product manufacturing. And interestingly, over 60% of global emissions result from inefficient material management. So the majority of emissions come from poor material management. If we have a look at the EU Circular Economy Action Plan, which came out a couple of months ago, and I think some of you might have browsed it through. It's really interesting and very powerful document with a concrete action plan, which is delightful. But it's also worth pointing out that manufacturing firms in the EU spend about 40% on materials. So creating closed loop models is a really a kind of a business case for them, because it can increase their profitability. And of course, price fluctuations is something that you want to shelter your company from. And of course, this tragic corona pandemic has shown us that we could, through better material management, actually create a level of resilience by having that material flow in our own hands. This is another quote from the EU Circular Economy Action Plan. And I think once again, it highlights the really important role of design. So the future circular economy at the EU wants to provide products that are designed for reuse, repair, and high quality recycling. And then a whole new range of sustainable services, product as service models, and digital solutions will bring about a better quality of life. The plan also states that the EU will accelerate the transition towards a regenerative growth model that gives back to the planet more than it takes. And I think this is really powerful statement. And this also means that we radically need to think about how to redesign our systems, our societies, and our company operations. And the aim is also double circular material use within the next 10 years. So as executive, I think the question that should be asked is that how do you actually create growth through this one planet approach? And how do you make sure that your company's products and services help your customers live and operate more sustainably? And as designer, how do you design out waste and pollution? How do you design for multiple life cycles? And how do you design to regenerate natural systems? It's also good to remember that everything we make comes from nature, but it also returns to nature. And it is really up to us whether it returns to nature either as food or poison. So some of the fundamentals of circular economy. This is a very simple and nice graph of the core of the dilemma that we are facing in our linear economy. So currently we are in this take, make, waste operating model and economic model as well. And when we want to create growth and well-being, it means that we need increasingly more natural resources and virgin raw materials. And this poses a problem. And what the circular economy approach is advocating is the concept of decoupling. So what we really want to create is decouple the creation of growth and well-being from the increasing use of resources and virgin raw materials. So the concept of decoupling is at the very hardcore of circular economy, and that's really important to kind of remember, but also to grasp. Because when we enter the actual R&D stage, that's what makes us kind of come up with new solutions, because we need to understand how do we decouple this in our own company operations, not just on the kind of planetary level, but how as a company you can decouple the creation of growth from the increasing use of resources and virgin raw materials. And I will come back to this through one of our case examples. Once we've understood the concept of decoupling, we start talking about cycles, and we have not recycling, which is the most familiar to us, but actually we have two cycles: technical cycles, which refers to non-renewable materials, and biological cycles, which refers to renewable materials. And we need to understand what the difference between these are, and when we are designing new products, we need to understand how to mix these so that they can be separated at the end of the first life cycle without breaking them and without losing the value. So material management and understanding of materials is increasingly needed skill when we transition towards a circular economy. And this is kind of a bit more complicated picture than the previous one, but you can still see the technical cycles on the right hand side and then biological cycle on the left hand side. We could spend one webinar on actually exploring this picture, and this is a picture or a tool that we use with our own clients at Ethica. But it suffices to say at this point that when you look at this butterfly right wing technical cycle, these loops are hierarchical. So maintenance, reuse, remanufacturing, and recycling. So what we want to do in circular economy is to stay as close to the center as possible. And as you can see from this picture, from the circular economy point of view, recycling is actually a last resort. So to put it another way, recycling is not an answer when we want to move towards a circular economy. This is something that won't save us, but we need to be more clever and more sophisticated with our design solutions. So in a nutshell, circular economy, it is an economic model where waste and pollution are designed out, materials are kept in circulation, and natural systems are regenerated. So this was a very, very quick deep dive into fundamentals of circular economy. And now we are ready to move into the next phase of this webinar, which is circular design framework. I told about the importance of creating a positive and powerful vision. And this vision is something that we use a lot in our work and with our clients. It's created by Michael Brongas and William McDonough, creators of Cradle to Cradle framework. And I think this is very different type of a vision than most environmental dystopic visions. And we are arguing that if a consumption can ever be a good thing, or 10 billion people is a good thing, the more important aspects here is to kind of propel us to the path that, okay, if we want to achieve anything close to this vision, how can we actually be so smart with our designs? And I'm also talking about systems design, not just product design. How can we be so smart with our system and product design that we can get a bit closer to this vision? Circular design approach. If you want to have a very kind of a simplistic picture of it, this would be it. So when we talk about circular design approach, we really have three cornerstones, and of course there's a lot of aspects and material in each of these corners, but at one corner you have the kind of traditional product design, but you also have system design in place, which we will talk more in the next slides. So product and system design, macro and micro levels. Then you need to develop your product and system design hand in hand with your revenue logic. In other words, your business model. And this thought stems from the idea that really traditionally, when we start a design process, it is based on linear thinking and linear economic model, which basically is that we need to sell more and we need to sell faster. But when we need to decouple, you still remember the concept of decoupling, when we need to decouple the growth from the increasing use of resources and virgin raw materials, we need to rethink our business model. And this needs to be done hand in hand with product and system design so that it becomes economically viable. And then we don't want to forget the customer, of course. So customer experience and branding are really crucial so that we actually iterate between these three cornerstones throughout our R&D work. And now I'll hand over to Ida, who will explore more the circular design approach.
Great, thank you, Anna. Yes, now I have the remote. Okay, so a bit more about circular design as an approach and process. So how does the circular design look like in process, and what really makes it so comprehensive in comparison to design processes supporting still the linear economy, which Anne also mentioned? Circular design practice is really using the life cycle thinking and working parallelly in the system and product level. And at Ethica, we follow the extensive circular design process, which can be divided into the system and product level, or can be called also as the macro and micro level. And I will open now the circular design process a bit in more detail in the next slides with certain case studies and examples. But here in this slide, we can see the process as a whole. So following the 4 different steps from the well-known double diamond design model, which is now integrated with the life cycle thinking model, the circular design process can be divided into these 4 different steps. So first, discover. Here we research and try to understand the whole business, global trends, user needs, and anything else related to the market and so forth. And the next step, the next step, define. I'm sorry, I don't know, this just starts to move somehow.
It has its own will.
Yeah, it has its own will, but we can start over. And then define. So here we synthesize our findings into circular principles, goals, and guidelines, so we know how to start to proceed with the design process itself. And in develop stage, we ideate these solutions and concepts for design and look into the ecosystem and partnerships, who we need to have around us, because alone, of course, we can't do the work if we also want to change the whole R&D process. And then define and deliver. And here we validate concepts with iterative prototyping for market-ready products and create communication strategy for the best fact-based circular narrative. So it can be said that thorough and holistic design is really stepping away from the object and thinking about the whole system. Therefore, working in a cross-disciplinary teams and iterating feedback loops among them can really enable the process in the most fruitful way. And here, if we look the process a bit more in detail, we have the first phase. I have gathered some case examples here to demonstrate these steps. And here in the research phase, we use various tools to start to look into the broader picture, including global trends, business, and user needs. We use various tools to aid the research phase in the best way possible, such as regenerative design metrics, citrus megatrends and UN development goals, and pestle analysis as an example. On the second phase, the synthesis phase, it is really framing the challenges and circular business opportunities across the whole value chain. So here, using this life cycle model thinking is very important to really understand who is doing what and when in the ecosystem. And as an example, internal audits for design process or participating in an EcoDesign Sprint is a great way to start to have a joint understanding of the circularity challenges and opportunities. And also by creating internal design goals and guidelines based on the findings can really improve the objectives towards circularity and closed loop solutions within the design process. And in the slide, you can see a couple circular design guidelines from Global Fashion Agenda and Nike, for example. And then the ideation phase, the third phase. Now the product development comes more topical and the circular features are researched and tested in more detail, such as technical features, usability, material, chemicals, and the partnerships. Where can we produce with these new adjustments? Do we need to have new partnerships or new materials, which we need to test much more in detail? And here it is really still integral to work parallelly in the product and the system level. And in the slide, you can see a case example from Tierra, which is a Swedish outdoor company. And they produced world's first bio-based technical jacket and won several prizes for that 2017 and 18. And the design goal was to produce a technical jacket made of 100% bio-based materials. Here I refer to bio-based polymers, and how to really make it and have it mass produced. So often in these circular design cases also you are able to do one sort of a showcase piece or prototype, but then you really have to look into the supplier system and the whole ecosystem, that how does it actually work out in mass production or in a bigger sort of logistics chain. And the problem detection with Tierra started on non-recyclable products with mixed materials and intensive chemicals usage in the cotton cultivation. So bio-based materials such as biopolymers were the viable option they wanted to use. And it was a critical issue to generate a network of suppliers that have a high specialization in these bio-based materials. And the aim was to achieve a fossil-free polyamide with necessary aesthetic appeal and material properties. Finding a right jacket producer as the industry, excuse me. So finding a right jacket producer for Tierra was extremely challenging, surprisingly, as the industry is highly competitive in an outdoor section, and it is hard to find any more suppliers who were willing to do the jacket on the way that Tierra's design required. So in the prototyping, the big difference here was really was above all the large amount of extra limitations that were faced with the design, and the fact of not wanting to have very common resources in the sector, from zippers, clues, lamination to Velcro, had a big impact on the design process and also, of course, on the final result. And this is why part of the design process has been not only to determine the shape and the pattern of the jacket as it would have happened in a normal product, but also to design the technical solution that was to be implemented. It is the case of the typical plastic closure with the springs that we can see in the laces to adjust the height of the most of the similar products, replaced in this case by a knot developed to suit the needs of the jacket, or the replacement of the usual zipper by buttons made with another material of organic origin. So these technical features of the jacket need to be reviewed because these conventional zippers and fasteners couldn't be used. And the face fabric was in the beginning of a castor bean nylon with a stretch, but the bio-based stretch yarn was discontinued in the production in the middle of the process, so they decided to take it away, the stretch in the outer fabric, and redo it to make it work without the stretch. So these are just examples of these iterations, what might come along with this sort of circular design product development. I also face these similar issues with Lidl, where you actually have to value that these conventional features in certain products are maybe not needed anymore, and you have to come up with certain technical or more like designy solutions where you justify that it really like designed for the biocycle or technical cycle. So certain sort of compromises come along, but they also bring innovation along on the other side. And here the biggest innovation has been the creation and the detection of these complex network materials, which involve very different actors and organizations. They have demonstrated that bio-based materials are able to meet the most demanding requirements. And then last, deliver stage. And here the prototyping and testing product and system circularity takes place by fine-tuning and improving technical qualities, as well as the feasibility of the build sort of ecosystem for circular solution. And often circular design projects start as a pilot projects where companies have been able to test the usability of the products, customer experience. They get feedback from these products. They can test new business models, take back systems, recycling systems, especially if you want to use the old products or materials. Again, you need the volume that needs to come back, such as Adidas created this mono-material shoe, but they had to also wait that people have used their shoes sort of, that they can get them back and design again from this material, which is still sort of like an iterative process to really like develop the quality sort of. And case examples on this slide are from various circular design pioneers who started to test circularity with one pilot project and implemented the findings and feedback in companies' strategic level or DNA and how design products overall in the future. And the intention is not to be perfect straight away, but to have a bold sort of goal or vision. Where do you wanna move your product development towards to, or what kind of products you want to sell in the future, which serve also these sustainability and circularity goals. And then by them having these sort of like roadmaps where you want to move to, you can then start to implement sort of these iterative changes, detail by detail or product by product. And then lastly, circular economy is meant to be a regenerative by design. And it is ideal, and at its ideal, where also waste and pollution are designed out. And circular design really aims to create high quality circular products and supporting circular systems and maintain the value of the materials in the loops the best way possible. So here sort of the phrase quality inside out should imply. And different design strategies supporting to move away from the linear economy and how we use and interact with the products should address these different strategies, should address and support solutions for such as biodiversity, circular systems, chemical input, user engagement, consumption, waste, and so forth. And then I would like to, we have few cases to open also more these circular design projects, but I would especially want to start with this case with Houdini, which is also a Swedish outdoor brand. They seem to have this sort of field well in their hands. But Houdini is specific as they've been already almost 20 years working with circularity and having sort of broader sustainability objectives in their company's vision, but also implemented into their design strategy. So Houdini, for example, doesn't have sustainability department, which is quite conventional in the field, but sustainability is sort of in their DNA, circularity in their DNA. So it should be sort of that everybody is sort of working towards these objectives in the company. And Houdini ensures that the most appropriate environmental strategies are selected for the given products they are developing. And key principle is ensuring circularity while maintaining durability. Houdini collects its used products from consumers for reuse and recycling. Worn out 100% polyester products are sent to Tessin for recycling. And it also sources recyclable polyester fibers from the company, thus closing the loop. In addition to chemical and recycled materials, the brand also used recycled nylon and polyester from recovered PET bottles. And Houdini has design philosophy by using different circular design strategies to address bigger environmental issues, but also different design strategies suitable for specific products. Houdini also works in tight collaboration with environmental institutes and has scientists as advisors and addresses long-term partnerships with its suppliers to achieve its circularity objectives. And Houdini has always found it very important to have these longer partnerships with its suppliers, because that has enabled them to really work and close with an R&D processes and sort of developments with new materials, new design strategies, and these iterations. So it's extremely important to have these long-term relationships so you can also build trust, but also sort of experience with these previous tests and prototyping sort of experiments. And now I give for Anne.
Thank you. Designing Plastic Circulation Report is a publication we wrote to the Nordic Council of Ministers last year, and we interviewed over 20 organizations for the report. So it's quite nice piece of research actually, because it includes so many very concise case studies. So if you are in the need of something to read before going to bed, this might be one of the options. But we created this 5-stage life cycle model based on the interviews. And one of our interviews was Philips. And I think that this example really nicely shows that those 3 cornerstones of circular design. So in its B2B operations, Philips has set a target for closing the loop by this year through getting all its healthcare equipment back for remanufacturing. So not for recycling, but actually remanufacturing and manufacturing new products with equivalent warranty is what they do already. And another really bold goal is that it wants to shift its business model from ownership, so selling the product, to providing services. And I think when we are talking about B2C market, so consumer electronics, that is a huge shift. So how do you actually get all the products back, and how do you design them at the first place in such a way that they can be easily disassembled and remanufactured, but also this provides a great opportunity for creating maintenance and repair services for Philips customers. Finnish Design Shop is actually one of our clients. We worked with them last year, and I've been talking about the importance of vision now for quite a few times, and you can see here that we also started with a vision with Finnish Design Shop. So closing the loop of all products by 2025 is their sustainability vision, and I think it's great vision, but it's also very kind of ambitious vision, because it's only 5-year time frame where to start really reorganizing the huge material flow that goes through Finnish Design Shop operations. As one of the very concrete examples is Frankly, a platform that they set up last autumn, and it's basically an online platform for pre-owned design. And Finnish Design Shop curates the whole collection that is sold there, ensures that the quality of the products, and this is already fully functioning, and different design items are being traded across the globe. So if you still remember the concept of decoupling, this is really a great example of how Finnish Design Shop has expanded their market, created new business branch by the idea of decoupling. So not a single new furniture or virgin raw materials is manufactured through Frankly. So great circular business model here. Then it's time to move on to EcoDesign Sprint, and I'll hand over to Aina, please.
Hello. Now I have my mic on and camera as well. Yes, Anne was already mentioning EcoDesign Sprint, and perhaps some of the participants are wondering now that how to start. So I give you one example. EcoDesign Sprint was created as part of the EcoDesign Circle project, which is funded by Interreg, so it's EU-funded project, and we created EcoDesign Sprint in cooperation with Ethica, and that's why we are here today, which is really nice. Oh, now something happened for my view. Sorry.
I tried to unmute you, but then I stopped sharing. let's get back to business.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
And I'm changing the slides, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, well, everything has gone really well so far. Yeah. Well, I can't change now. Okay, yep.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we are talking about EcoDesign Sprint. And now I'm trying to change again. Yeah. Well, it's going fast. I had already 2 slides. So what is it? EcoDesign Sprint is an intensive 3-day training and acceleration program, which is targeted for SMEs and design agencies. It's built with a multidisciplinary team of professionals, and it's consisting designers, circular economy experts, and also SME. And SME is a client company in EcoDesign Sprint. And the focus in the sprint is SME's business opportunities through circular thinking. For the client companies, Sprint is very concrete and rapid service or product development process, and it's furthering the company's strategic goals. For designers, the Sprint provides great opportunity to learn and embed circular design principle into their work. So it's not only working, it's only learning. And the goal of program is to increase the knowledge and expertise of SMEs and also design sector in circular economy. And another goal is to create circular business concepts for the companies and to develop the business operations as well as more sustainable products and services for them. And what is the result of EcoDesign Sprint and deliverables? The client company who is participating is having many different benefits from EcoDesign Sprint. The feedback we have received tells that the participating companies, in them the mindset has changed towards the circular economy. And they also understand that circular solutions create competitive advantage in the future. And I think the past couple of years have shown that it's not in the future, it's right now. But it's not only about the mindset, there's many other benefits. Like the concrete benefit is that 2 novel product or service concepts or prototypes are developed in EcoDesign Sprint. The companies gain tools for short-term and long-term business development. They also get circular boost for the existing strategy and operations. And actually they get concrete action points for future development. So it's not only what's happening during the workshop days. And shortly I will describe how these 3 days are built. As I already mentioned, there's a team that consists of circular economy coach, client company and a design agency, and once already told, there's 2 concepts created in the EcoDesign Sprint. And it's structured from 3 phases. On the first phase, EcoDesign Sprint workshop aims to create shared understanding on the circular economy and its business opportunities. The first day, which we also call the first phase, is run by the circular economy expert. And the pilots that we have done, we have done all these pilots with Ethica, and so Anne is really experienced on these EcoDesign Sprints. On the second day, which is also the second phase, it's called Ideate. I forgot to mention that the first phase is about understanding, and the second phase is to ideate. It's facilitated by the design agency, and it aims to co-create 2 concepts. After the day, the design agency will then further develop the concepts and present them on the phase 3, which is called Deliver. And after that, the project is encouraged to be continued and implemented in the client company with cooperation with the design team as well as the circular economy expert. I will now show some tools that we have used in the EcoDesign Sprints. Many of the core exercises are related to the EcoDesign Sprint roadmap, which you can see now. It's built during the workshop days, and it also forms the foundation for the EcoDesign Sprint and the development that is happening there. Another canvas we are using, now I'm somehow losing, Anne, can you change the slide?
Sure.
Yeah, now I can see it, yeah. Well, no, yes, thanks. Yeah, Ida was already presenting the life cycle model, and it's also been a very good tool in EcoDesign Sprint, and it helps to analyze current products and services and future opportunities in EcoDesign Sprint. There's many other canvases and many other exercises, which you can actually have a look on the EcoDesign Sprint booklet, which I think my colleague Saija is, yes, I can see the link now in the chat. You can download it from there, so you can get more familiar with EcoDesign Sprint. And of course, you can also contact us and ask more. And then for last, I wanted to show one quote from one of the workshop participants, which I think is very nice. It's convincing that these methods are really important for advancing the circular economy, and design is also a very great tool for circular economy. From my side, I will thank you now, and I think it's now time for, is it for questions?
Yes and A's, yes.
Do you, Anne, have something to add for EcoDesign Sprint?
No, I think it was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, as I mentioned at the beginning that we've got quite a few questions beforehand, so we will address those first, and then you can post your questions through chat, of course. The first question that we got was about the use of circular design aspects. So considering our Finnish companies, how versatile they are utilizing circular design aspects, comparing companies from other European countries, for example, Sweden, Denmark, and Germany. I'd love to say that Finnish companies are using circular design principles extensively, but the truth is that according to our experience, there's still very limited understanding and even more limited use of circular design principles. So the good news is that there's a lot room for improvement. And I think that circular design principles, or the whole approach like we presented today, is not yet very familiar, so that it really is a strategic business issue. It really is about creating new markets and creating new business models, which goes hand in hand in product design. So answering the first question, start exploring what circular design means for you, and then start using it, because we are not using it sufficiently yet. The second question, I assume that circular design requires even more cooperation between companies than what we are used to. Is it something you agree? If so, how companies can identify their needed skills when the whole topic is still a bit challenging to understand? This is very easy to answer. Thank you for the excellent question. Yes, you do need shared understanding before you can actually start sort of taking it into or embedding it into different processes. EcoDesign Sprint is really great way to get started, create that shared understanding, get everybody on the same page. It creates platform for discussing your strategic goals and then learning from the circular economy mindset and operational mode, and then how it could influence and impact your business operations. So let's get started with EcoDesign Sprint. That's the best way. Then there was one question around circular design material discoveries. And I think that Ida will answer this question by posting some really interesting links that you can explore at a later stage. There's another question around how to kickstart my circular journey. The answer, once again, is EcoDesign Sprint, because it is very intensive, it is very comprehensive way to bring all different business aspects together, and then kind of start creating that roadmap that Aino showed you, and start prioritizing what needs to be done next. Then one of you is from Switzerland. Hello, Switzerland. I would like to bring the EcoDesign Sprint to Switzerland. Do you have any partners here, or a set process on how to set this up? No, but you are more than welcome to contact Aino and myself, or Ida and Saya, and discuss more, and we can help setting up the process in Switzerland. We will conquer the world with EcoDesign Sprint. And then the next question, how can I encourage and engage colleagues and suppliers from other fields like hardware, electronics to embrace eco-design more frequently? My answer to this would be, again, that you can't, as long as there is no shared understanding of what does it mean. So EcoDesign Sprint or similar process where you really you do your homework first, and then you can start engaging with them. But as long as people don't know what this is about, it is really difficult to engage. And then the last question, how does circular design solve the issue of mass consumerism, ideology on what resources can or cannot be used? So there's actually two questions here. So the issue of overconsumption. Although it might sound like that, EcoDesign Sprint is not, it doesn't solve every single problem in the world. However, through that iterative model that we use at EcoDesign Sprint, we do tackle the problem of overconsumption through those circular business models. So product as service models, how do we create services, how do we move away from ownership and provide services and premium customer experience. And the second part of the question on resources, what can or cannot be used, EcoDesign Sprint is a marvelous tool because it actually, when we go through the life cycle model, you can really start that discussion, like what your current materials are and what they should be in the future. And then of course, a much more deep diving is needed after the sprint because it's only 3 days, but that's a good way to get started and then start going deeper and deeper, kind of comparing different materials and getting a better understanding of what you want to get rid of and what to use in the future. So those were all the questions that were sent to us beforehand, and it's now 5 p.m. and officially we will close this webinar now. So many thanks for your participation. We would love to continue discussion with you. So feel free to contact us. But also if any of you wants to stay online and chat with us, we are here 15 more minutes and we are more than happy to answer your questions. So thank you and goodbye for those who need to leave, and feel free to stay with us for another 15 minutes. So any questions you might have, feel free to ask us. I can see a lot of thank yous in chat. Thank you to you. It's been a pleasure. And I can see that there's still quite a few people online, so just feel free to ask any question that pops into your mind. We are happy to have a chat with you. And you can use either the chat, or now that we are fewer people, you can also open your mic and ask your question, either in Finnish or English.
Yes, hello, this is Emmy Sarkoski from Myanmar. Can you hear me? Can you hear me or? Hello?
Hello, Enni.
You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is that basically in the circular economy and the circular design, waste is being designed out, right? And this is according to all the principles and the design principle, and also we look at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation information. It's designed out. And however, we still have a lot of waste, and we still need to recycle it. Like, so there's a transition from having waste towards no zero waste society, right?
Yeah.
And then also, like in Ellen MacArthur Foundation, there is, like the latest report there was, that still 50% of the plastic will be recycled, but it will just be like better quality material, better quality plastic. It will be something that we can reuse again for sure. So we're zeroing out the kind of material that can't be reused.
Mm-hmm.
So just like, it's more like a comment that I think that we still have a lot of waste, and we need to kind of move towards a society that has no more waste. And also, of course, like if we are creating new products and packaging, we should think that how can the packaging, for example, work also as a product, not necessarily as a packaging that we throw away. So I think it's like there's a big transition that needs to happen, and at the same time, you know, some companies or some products can be completely based, can be created as a circular economy principles. I think like there needs to be like a transition also towards this kind of a business and this kind of a society and economy. So what do you think like about this transition phase?
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with you that the reason that I'm kind of emphasizing that recycling is not an answer when we look at the kind of the loops from the circular economy point of view is that recycling is of course most familiar to us, and for many years, if we kind of rewind the national circular economy debates that we, for example, in Finland have had, it very much focused on recycling, but we need to look at the beginning of the whole kind of R&D process, which is design. But you are absolutely right in that we still need recycling. And of course, recycling technologies are improving all the time. So like, for example, with plastics and the plastics report that I showed to you, there's mechanical recycling, but also chemical recycling. Now, at this stage, chemical recycling for plastics, all the technological solutions exist, but they are too expensive. So that's why we're still, the majority of plastics get recycled through mechanical recycling. But technologically, it could be done, which would maintain the quality of plastics. But definitely, it's not to say that we don't need recycling, and there's still an awful lot of waste that we are creating. And even in Finland, we could be far better recyclers, even in households. And of course, in kind of factory operations as well. So definitely, we can't jump from this linear economy to a perfect ideal circular economy, but the transition needs to be there. But the reason why I emphasize the kind of importance of design and those tidal loops is that we cannot find the answers from recycling. We need to do far better, and we need to radically redesign how our society works.
Yes, I totally agree on that.
Yeah.
That we need to think further, that's not our aim, right? But the aim is to,
even if we were far better in recycling, it wouldn't mean that we are in a circular economy. So that requires kind of more radical redesign and reorganizing, and recycling is one corner in that vast picture of circular economy that we need to address.
Yes, indeed. That's very good presentation. Thank you. It was a pleasure to listen to.
So, sorry, I can't hear you right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a pleasure to listen to. It was an interesting presentation. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.
Hi, Anna. I have a question as well. This is Tom from calling from Stockholm, sitting on my colleague Melina.
Hello.
I have a question. How do you scope a challenge when you have the understanding phase and you continue after the first day? How do you make sure you have the broad understanding of the entire cycle, all the cycles, the biological and technical cycles, but then choosing an area where you want to focus on and end up with two actionable concepts you can continue exploring from? Could you maybe share some learnings from moving from the understanding to the ideating phase? And on what level are you ideating? What are you ideating on? Is it a part of the circular economy aspect, or is it the entire supply chain, or how do you decide what?
Yes, sure. That's a really good question. And I must say that it varies a lot depending on the company. So when I showed you the roadmap that we fill out during the EcoDesign Sprint, we look at the company's strategic goals. And that is one starting point for us. So of course, because it is a way to kickstart the company's circular journey, then we need to kind of adjust to what issues and topics are the most relevant for the company, kind of outside the circular economy scope, but as a company and regarding strategic goals. And that very often guides us that, okay, whether we will focus on internal topics or supply chain topics. Having said that, through the life cycle model exercise, we map out both. So we don't do the selection on the day one. We map out both, but then what do we actually focus on for further concept development depends very much on the company's needs and the stage where they are regarding the circularity. So it might be very well that a company actually benefits the most from circular design principles, and so that they would guide their future circular design or design processes, so that they have proper guidelines in place, where some might already be there and they would be really willing to explore, let's say, alternative materials or products as a service business models, for example.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks for those questions. We still have a couple more minutes, so shoot us with your questions.
On the focus, whether it's focusing on looking at maybe the material and product design as a focus, or having the digital component, the technology coming in when it comes to maybe designing for supporting the process around product as a service towards consumers. How do we make sure that there is a digital infrastructure? How would you, from the different sprints you've done so far, what would you say would be the difference between those two focus areas? Either looking into the product design and the material and the process around that, or the services you build for the consumers to support recycling, manufacturing, refurbishing, reuse, those kind of processes. Since I'm asking, I saw the agencies you work with are of an industrial design, maybe more of a background, the product design background. We're working for a digital agency called Sweden, so we work with digital services in different contexts. We were interested in how could we use that skill together with this, basic circular knowledge, and even, that's with a coach, and kind of focus maybe on the technical cycle and the service you could think around that. Do you understand the question?
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear you, but I hope I got it right, because the line is a bit flaky. What we do before we actually start the sprint is we interview the company so that we get a better understanding of their needs. And then that also helps us to identify a kind of right type of design agency that who would be a good partner for the sprint. Is this what you're kind of asking? Yeah. So of course, if it's more on the product design side, then we choose a design agency that is able to do that. And then, of course, like in some cases, it might be more around, communications or sort of service development. So then obviously that changes the scope of that kind of a design agency partner. But we do like a mini audit of the company beforehand, and that's also a good way to get to know the people who will participate in the sprint, but also understand that, okay, where the company is, what the current state is, and what their needs are. So we already have a pretty good understanding of what they want out of the sprint before we actually start the sprint.
All right.
Great. We are more than happy to continue discussion with you afterwards, and we will send all the participants a short email. So any other questions that you might have, feel free to ask them. We still have like sort of 1 short minute. So if there's a burning question that you would like to address, then feel free to ask it. And if not, then I thank you for your participation and contribution. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope to continue conversation with all of you.